All right, we're live. Hello and welcome to the Gaming Perspective, episode number 61. We got a lot to talk about this week. Not a whole lot, but enough that makes it interesting. We're not going to beat a dead horse here. We are going to talk about E3 again, so that's exciting. But we've got a ton of different gameplay that came out this week, some rumors and everything else. So be some good discourse, for the lack of a better word, to surround yourself with. So we'll get right into introductions here, and joining me as always from Windows Central and Android Central, Mr. Sam is Political Tolbert.
That's right. I'm here, and against the gag orders I've been under, I am finally political. I'm finally ready to tell you about just how many politic I have. No further details, of course, but it should be a good show. I'm glad to be talking to you bros again.
And as the producer of this show, I just want to say that Sam is in fact not political, and it is an apolitical appearance for all sense and purposes. But also introducing someone who is not political, Mr. Eric Jackson.
I'm not political. my politics have got me in trouble on quite a few occasions, but or whatever you define as trouble. I like to say it as being woke. So, but no, what's going on, guys? Missed you guys last week. Happy to be back. So yeah, let's get into it.
Absolutely. And joining us once again is Mr. Zach Robertson. How's it going today, sir?
It's going great. I'm very excited to be back talking with y'all. I think I came around like about this time last year, so this is now annualized. So thank you. And I couldn't be more pleased to join some political folks as we talk about games. It's always good. It's always good to acknowledge the politics in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's never been a problem when discussing politics and video games in the history of social media discourse.
They mesh together well.
Perfectly well. There's never been a problem with it. So as we talk about each and every week, we talk a little bit about what we've been playing. So since he is our guest, Zach, what have you been diving into on your free time this past week?
So speaking of politics, I have been playing more of Disco Elysium on PS5. I don't know. Did any of y'all check that game out?
Not yet.
I was waiting on a patch.
Okay. So highly recommend it. Like, I'm really into it as it's kind of a cliche premise, but you're a burnt out, amnesia-ridden from a hangover detective dealing with a murder happening in a local town that is like it's a few decades after like a communist collapse in a fictionalized setting. But it's a really cool game where you are like building relationships with another detective who doesn't have a lot of faith in you. You can kind of build or diminish that relationship over time. Really cool. And then beyond that, actually slipping back into Overwatch, which turns out if you haven't played since launch and then you only ever played on console, jumping to PC, not an easy time. Turns out people have gotten very good at that game in the 5 years since launch.
Yeah, that's what absolutely terrifies me, because I built a gaming PC there a little bit ago, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll jump into like Siege or Overwatch, and I'm like, no, you know what? Maybe I won't.
Mm-hmm. Competitive gaming on PC is like its own thing. I tried Valorant and like stuck in the silver ranks, like not getting out.
Yeah, I'm forever copper in CS:GO, so I feel you there. Eric, what have you been playing this week?
So let's see. I've kind of been getting some gaming going and finally completing some things. So finally finished Resident Evil 8. So yeah, it was exactly what I wanted from the minute it was announced and shown. Loved it. So got to get back in, do some speed runs, and go through some other areas and clean some things up, stuff like that. I might actually go ahead and go for the platinum, and then maybe down the road I pick it up again on Xbox and go for the gamer score. But we will see. I also have to finish all of Yakuza this year, right, Sam?
Ostensibly. I mean, and you said a couple of weeks ago that you're going to be throwing like Judgment in there, right? Because that's on the modern platforms now. So like you got no issues. Just pile them on.
Oh yeah. Let's do it. With all the free time that I have. So
Zach, For clarification, what happened is at the beginning of the year, we had a challenge where we talked about games we were each going to play. I chose some reasonable ones, like I've never played the original Half-Life. Okay, like that's one, for example, et cetera, et cetera. This funny guy chose the entire Yakuza series.
Yeah,
So
I went big.
It's bold. It's a bold.
How's it coming,
It's a
Eric?
bold play.
Yeah, it's like 700 hours worth of gameplay. Not a problem. 6-year-old kid, not a problem.
Yeah.
Husbandly duties.
Wait,
Bring it on.
I gotta ask. Okay, so if it includes Judgment, is Judgment 2 out this year? Does that also fall into the pile?
Yes.
Under
the
why the hell not, Zach? Why the hell not?
precedent, like because we're like American courts here, right? Like you ruled one way on this one, so now that ruling is going to take precedent later on. It's just
right. And I mean,
know.
of course, I mean, all games are going to get delayed and stopped. So there's nothing new that's going to be coming out. This is like one of those times where I really wish I was one of those. Man, it's dry out here, people. I have nothing but time. I don't understand those people because it's never dry for me. But hey, it is what it is. So yeah. So other than that, I finished up Resident Evil 8 and jumped into. I've actually played through Donut County. Great game. My daughter actually beat it as well. I picked it up for her on her Switch because she saw me playing it. She was like all in it. She cruised through it. I was like, look at you. All right. And with that, we also finished up It Takes Two. Fantastic game. Definitely in my running for Game of the Year. Other than that, started on Biomutant. Still early in that, so we'll see where that goes. So far, so good. It's one of those games that I like. I kind of miss those AA, like titles, that kind of just, you can kind of get lost in. It's not asking too much of you. As far as I know, it's not very long as far as some games go these days. So looking forward to getting back into that. But a lot of stuff going on game-wise.
Absolutely. Sam, what about you? What are you diving into this week? Or are we back into redacted territory again?
No. Amazingly, we're not in redacted territory. Much to my chagrin, I would say. Like I prefer, based on how some of my peers are acting. I wish I could say I'm in redacted territory. I've just kind of been henpecking. I'm in this. I don't know if this makes any sense, because this is like reporter brain on steroids. But I get weird around E3 time, and I don't want to commit to anything. Like, I want to be playing through all 3 Mass Effect games, or like doing some big replays, or knocking out that expansion for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Wrath of the Druids that came out. Like, it looks cool. It's in Ireland. It has werewolves and that kind of stuff. It looked fun, but I can't commit to anything long right now because I get this weird anxiety about, but I'm on call all practically 24/7, so let me just henpeck at stuff. So I've found myself just falling into these weird comfort food moods of like, let me boot up Gears 5 just for a couple of matches, or let me boot up Ori Will the Wisp and roam around for 30 minutes, or just a lot of stuff like that. Boot up Demon Souls and roam around for 30 minutes. It's a weird thing. I'll get over it probably like when the conferences are done. But I always get this way around E3.
I think there's something to that, though, because I remember the first and only E3 I went to, 2018, like a few days before the conference, I started Vampire. It came out right before E3, started the game, went to E3 for 4 or 5 days, came home, and then like I just dropped off, never came back to it. I liked what I played. The game seemed cool, but just totally dropped off. There's something that happens when you're going in to cover something, you get in a zone. So I think you're actually wise for this. Don't grow out of it, Sam. Stick with it.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's fair. But I will say, what was it? There was one thing I accomplished while I was there. I did this last week, but since there was just me and Nick last week, I'll reiterate here. I actually platinumed The Last of Us Part 2. I went back and I finished up a replay because the 60 FPS patch was out. So I still have my opinions about the ending of that game, and they're written over on Android Central. But I mean, the combat is still great. Like the combat, like blowing dudes into meaty chunks with Ellie's explosive arrows, never gets old, especially at 60 FPS. Like 60 FPS makes everything better. I think that's a fairly universal statement. So,
yeah, I like how the conversation is shifting to FPS.
Yes, yeah, I know, Eric, because you've been on that train for a long time. Credit where credit's due. You were there in 2017, I remember.
Yeah, so, enough of this resolution crap. You know,
What do you mean? You don't want 4K at 23 FPS? What's wrong with you? It's perfectly filmic. I do not understand what's wrong with you.
Nick, since you spoke up, and I know you've been getting into a game that a couple of us have been telling you to play for years, literally. How are things going?
Well, I've got a couple things to say about Mass Effect. I killed Ashley at the first possible moment because she's a filthy fucking space racist. I was actually kind of appalled. I'm not even going to lie. When I first started playing, I was like, she seems so nice. And then she opens her mouth and I'm like, oh, holy shit. What the fuck?
Isn't there a line early in that game when you first go to the Citadel and she said, I can't tell the difference between some of the aliens and dogs. Like, it's like the most fucked up shit.
Karen's in space.
Yeah, no kidding.
I was just like, oh my god. And then they're like, do you kill Caden or do you kill Ashley? I'm like, is this even a fucking choice? I'm like, let her burn. Yeah, but aside from her, the game is absolutely wonderful, and it just the writing in itself, just in how the characters are all pulled together, like there is not one morally just character in there. Everyone's kind of their own convoluted person for the most part. Like Rex has his own, moral dilemmas, so to speak, and Garrus is obviously a fucking cop. But there's more comments on there later. But yeah, no, I just really am enjoying all of it. And I don't know if it was because people set my expectations so low, but I actually really enjoy the combat of Mass Effect 1. And I'm not sure if it's because they tweaked it and fixed a lot of it, or if it's just not legitimately as bad as people say it is. But
they definitely fixed it. Okay. Fixed might be Eric. Zach, feel free to chime in and override me here. Fixed might be a tad strong of a word, but they definitely improved it. Like it is, the combat is way better, especially with like the sniper rifle. Like you can actually use the sniper rifle without putting 10 points into it. That thing used to be awful.
The Mako, however, still dog shit, despite them like hyping up in the pre-release, right?
Oh yeah, still garbage. Garbage.
What's wrong with the Mako? I love the Mako.
It's so bouncy.
Like
I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's like the Skyrim horse, right? You just go diagonally up everything. It's amazing. I love it. But yeah, no, I'm just really enjoying it, and I definitely am putting in way more time than I planned because a lot of people are like, "Oh, you can beat it in like 13 hours." I'm like, I'll probably do that because I want to beat the other games too. And I was like, "Ooh, I can land on this planet. Ooh, I'm gonna land here. Ooh, what's this over here? Oh, there's a side. Oh, I'm going to do. And now I'm like 30 hours into it. And I'm like, shit, I am now overinvested.
So based on your comments, you said that you've completed Vermeer, right? I presume
I'm on Elos right now.
Okay. All right. So you're okay. All right. You're going along. How was, because I mean, open spoilers for the game at this point, as far as up to what you've played. That's my attitude. The game came out how many years ago? How cool, dude, was that reveal? Tell me with a straight face that isn't some of BioWare's best writing ever.
You cut it right when you said reveal, and I have no idea what you.
The reveal was sovereign. The conversation was sovereign.
Oh yeah, no, that was wild. I was like, oh look, it's an AI machine, and then it's like, oh, that's a Reaper. I'm like, oh shit, okay. And it's like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna talk tough to him, and he just kind of basically laughed at me. It was like, haha, puny human. I'm like, fuck, I should have planned this better. But no, I'm really excited to keep trekking along because I was kind of worried with having the legendary collection being like, oh, am I going to fall off at some point where I'm going to stop playing this and then not go back to it? But I honestly have been having a hard time playing other games I'm supposed to be playing right now. Instead of that, I'm like, I can sneak in an hour of Mass Effect right now. I'm going to do that.
Look, all I'm going to say is enjoy your entire gun arsenal in Mass Effect 1, because they do some shit in Mass Effect 2 where they're like, hey, what if you just could only use 3 of these guns instead of all 5? It's a cool thing that they like to try. So enjoy that.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
I'm not going to say more. I won't say more.
But
everything
yeah,
else gets so much better. I think you
Fair.
kind of just
True.
kind of say, you know what? All right, it is what it is. But but no, seriously, man, I'm glad that you're getting into it. It's the thing that kind of like is reminding everyone of how awesome BioWare. I don't want to say once was, because I feel like everybody can have a redemption story. You can kind of get back to that, but it does kind of highlight how awesome they were, at storytelling and things like that. So it's just, you just want them to get back to that. So whether that's Mass Effect is, Dragon Age, it's like, hope you guys play through this collection, BioWare team, so you can remember those good old days. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting, and it really gives that old BioWare feel is just I miss it. It makes Anthem sting a little bit more, because I'm kind of like, how did you make Mass Effect hit so hard in the first hour, but Anthem is just so bad all the way through? It hurts me. It hurts me. But just some wrapping up too. I have been playing a massive ton of Iron Harvest on PC. Got to do battle against the developers yet again, and that was painful. I got live stream getting my arse kicked by the lead gameplay designer and the PR team. So that was a joy. But then I switched teams and beat the tar out of my friends. So all's fun and good in war, and definitely go check out Iron Harvest on PC if you're an RTS nerd like myself. But that wraps up kind of what we've been playing this week, and we'll dive right into the biggest. I'm not going to say biggest. Depends where you feel on this game. I think was the biggest reveal of the week, which of course was Horizon Forbidden West, and I'm talking about the gameplay reveal, not people freaking out about Aloy's face for 3 fucking days. So I admittedly did not like Horizon Zero Dawn. I thought it was very kind of bland, and I just really couldn't get into it. However, I do find Forbidden West very appealing. It looks really cool. The environments look really in depth. And I was overall really impressed with what they showcased in that state of play, especially since they dove so deep into the gameplay and showed off some of the new stuff, showed off some combat, everything else. So kind of go around and see, where are you guys at with Horizon Forbidden West? Like, Zach, where are you falling for this game so far?
So I should preface it. I'm kind of like you. The first game I sort of bounced off. So I remember playing it for a day or two, and then Breath of the Wild came out. And because, I think the original Horizon did a lot of things right? It was really iterative and a meditation on all of the things that Ubisoft had been playing with for 5 years. And it did it just as well or better. And so it was fun to play for the first few days, but then I jumped to Breath of the Wild, which, a lot of fair criticism would say is too unguided, but I really latched onto that approach. And so once I beat Breath of the Wild and tried to come back to Horizon, I found it to be like almost too tired. A little bit of the formula exhausted me. Now that said, last week's gameplay looked really good. I did think it was funny, seeing the glider that's basically Breath of the Wild's glider make a small snippet in the gameplay. I thought that was a little funny given the history between Breath of the Wild and Horizon launching around each other. I think it looks good. I think that as someone who found the gameplay a little bland, I wasn't like blown away and totally like hyped, just because I have some criticism around the base thing. But that said, the movement looks fun. It looks gorgeous. Like the underwater section in particular looks great. I think the facial animations look significantly better. I don't know if y'all remember this, but the original game had like every time you talk to someone in the world, it would kind of do reverse shot of like your face, the NPC's face, and go back and forth. Like it seemed like they actually had a little bit more like cinematic, cinematography in their shots. So it looks higher production values. It looks beautiful. I mean, the last thing I'll say, and I'm sure y'all will hit on this, is like kind of surprised they didn't give us a release date or even a window to expect it. I still am holding my breath for like November, but we'll see. What about you, Eric? I gotta ask, what did you think of it, and also your relationship with the first game?
No, I absolutely love the first game. So I'm definitely in the fan camp. But I could definitely understand the things that kind of bothered you, the same things that bothered Nick. So when they showed the melee, the first thing I was like, was Nick thinking? I'm wondering what he's thinking, because I know a lot of people had issues with the melee, and I agree. I think that was like one of the weakest parts of it. But I absolutely loved the first game. I never got tired of just like dismantling, giant, robot dinosaurs and whatever you want to call them. So I think the biggest mistake they did make with that game is being in that same window with Breath of the Wild, because that is one of the comparisons I hear that comes up very often. I played Breath of the Wild later because at that time I couldn't get my hands on the Switch, so it was like later on when I finally got one. And also I think people probably tried to play those games very close to one another, and I probably would have felt the same way. It's like too much open world sameness, too much of the same thing. Sometimes you have to really space those things out. But as far as the reveal, that is the kind of deep dive that I wanted to see. I don't really personally need to see any more because I was already going to be there, for the game. So I saw enough. But the things that I saw, really like they addressed a lot of the issues that people had, with the game. But yeah, I was laughing too at the glider thing, because I think there's so many games that have now adopted the glider.
Totally.
Yeah, if you're playing, Genshin Impact, you're gliding. You're playing Immortals Phoenix Rising, you're gliding. But the one in Horizon is very much like, the one in Breath of the Wild, like you're holding on, and you're gliding down. So I want to see how they implement that. But yeah, I definitely see like the growth, because like you said, that was one of the things that kind of disturbed me was the interactions and the narration between the characters, that back and forth. It always looked kind of like rigid and stiff, and now it looks like they've kind of learned a little bit more about making that a little more seamless. So yeah, so it's going to be interesting. But yeah, those underwater bits does look insane.
And I'm still not over it. It might get annoying if they do this every time you do it, but like that anime-ass melee animation where she's like loading that thing into her staff, incredibly good. Yeah, the melee undoubtedly looks like a huge step up.
Yeah. I hope they don't overkill that, because it was pretty spicy. I was like, ooh, look at that. I was like,
yes.
And I think I tweeted like, someone learn how to melee.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, but no, the game looks gorgeous. So I definitely can't wait to see more. You're right about the release window. So I kind of wonder if that's something that they're leaving for around the E3 time period, and kind of not just like blowing all their wad in the one thing. Hey, here's the gameplay reveal. We have a little bit more to talk about, and then, I'm still hoping for that 60 frame Horizon 1.
I was about to ask you that.
So yeah.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that. I am also, like release date, 60 FPS option, please.
Mm-hmm.
Please, 60 FPS option.
Yeah. So I just wanted to just held back a little bit and didn't want to do too much in that. It's like, here's the gameplay, and we're moving on. But I think, people just want to know at this point, is this game definitely coming? Because we're still in that area where it could slip. So we'll see.
Yeah. Sam, what about you? Where, Aloy Baloy, or where are we at, man?
hey, she cute. Seriously, like I think Zach and Eric have basically said most of what I was going to say. I'm kind of between them. Like I think Eric liked it a bit more than me, and I liked it more than Zach. The melee combat was the weakest part. Like that was the weakest part. The game was awesome as long as you were using the different weapons on the dinosaurs, which was, to be fair, I think most of the combat. But whenever you had to whack a human, it was just like, nope, I'm thudding you with my stick. It's not good. It's not great here. So they stepped it up with that. That animation might get old like the 30th time I see it, but I've watched it a few times right now and it seems fine. So I like it. I like the idea that Aloy can add a different like effects to her spear. So like if there's a lightning effect, maybe you can add fire or acid or maybe, or like a freezing effect. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much. I'm getting too ahead of them, but that was just where my mind went, right? Because the machines have those effects, like freezing or fire or lightning and acid and all this different stuff. So maybe you can like take canisters off of fallen machines and slot them into your spear. That's just my reasoning. Underwater looks great. I'm kind of on record saying that underwater in general is underutilized, pun intended, in games. I don't think we've done what we can with underwater as a setting, as a vibe, and changing things up. It looks gorgeous. Like it just looks, and I don't mean this in a bad way. Let me be very clear about this. It looks unrealistic. It's like San Francisco Bay is not that dense. It is not. Like you don't have that much life just crammed into one area.
What?
So that was fantastic to see. I'm really curious how this thing is going to run on PS4. I'm wondering what they're going to have to rip out of that. So I'm not worried about it because I have my PS5, but it is a cross-gen game, so that's just a thought in my head. I definitely think the big question now is like, yeah, lack of release window or lack of release date, but even lack of release window is weird because in every interview that he had with like GQ or Wired or anything like that, Herman Hulst and Jim Ryan have both reiterated like second half of 2021, second half of 2021. Maybe I'm just jaded and conspiratorial. Seems weird that they wouldn't end that state of play with being like, and we'll have more to share in the lead up to the game's launch in the second half of this year. Like, you see what I mean? Like, it just feels weird not to reiterate that yet again. So this is just my personal galaxy brain. I think it's coming down to the wire. I think like they're not quite sure they can make November. So they're like, you know what? Let's not be fools. Let's not be stupid. Let's only say something if we actually have to say something, and we'll hold it closer to the chest for now. Personally, like, and this is the thing, like, don't crunch the team. If they can't make it, give them a holiday break and put it out February 28th next year. Like the anniversary, that would be the 5th anniversary of the first game, which is a crazy statement when you think about it, that it'd be 5 years already, but like, it makes sense. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree with you. Like, one of the first things that kind of struck me is I was like, it's weird they won't put a release window on it when Jim Ryan's literally going around and telling everyone and their mother that, you know, it's coming 2021. Don't you worry about that. But of course, he's going to say that for financial reasons and whatever the case may be. So I'm still team 2022 with this because I think PlayStation will want this to be perfect, because that's kind of the standard they've brought themselves to. So if there's any hiccups or hitches in development that they can't quite smooth out in time, they'll bump it. And I don't think it's particularly harmful if they bump it because they've never put a date on it. So it's the same kind of thing we saw with like Starfield, everyone being like, oh, it's being delayed. It's like, you can't delay something that never had a date. It's kind of the great thing about
I don't disagree with you. Like, Nick, I'm on your side, but Horizon Forbidden West was slated for this year. Like, they did attach a year to it.
Am I totally off base for saying that like it was initially pitched as actually launch window, or am I totally off base? Maybe
that was Ratchet. That was Ratchet.
Okay,
Ratchet was launch window, and I'm not going to get into my spiel on June not being launch window. That's another thing. They just said 2021 for Horizon and God of War, but the difference is no one believed it for a moment when it came to God of War.
Nick, I know you said you're 2022 on Horizon, but I got to ask, do you wonder, is your positioning all about the studio needing more time, or do you think it could be on PlayStation thinking about positioning, right? Because Deathloop seems like a sure thing for September at this point because it was delayed. Ghostwire, like, honestly, I could see Ghostwire slipping because we've seen nothing about it, and so, like, Bethesda wouldn't launch something in September, and then I don't know. Like, I almost wonder if PlayStation is looking to see where their internal studios and then maybe some of their, you know, their Call of Duty, their third market. Like, yeah. I almost wonder how much of it is studio needs versus like publishing needs. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, when we start talking about holiday and everything, like, you know, Battlefield hype train starting to build up. You know, Call of Duty is Call of Duty. And while Horizon's a big IP for PlayStation, like Horizon Zero Dawn was a huge new IP for them, I don't think, and I could be completely off base here, I don't think it's big enough to square off against Call of Duty and Battlefield. I think that would be detrimental to the game's release. I know those player bases don't necessarily cross over, but $80 games are $80 games.
And you know what else is rumored for this fall is Breath of the Wild 2. And I think they probably want to avoid that.
Oh, yeah, we don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
No. You know what's going to happen is that Breath of the Wild 2 and Horizon will be slated for fall 2021, and then both get delayed to 2022, and it'll still go head to head.
I hate how much of it, like, there is a non-zero chance of that.
So what's the cutoff? Do y'all have like an idea of like, okay, if we don't hear by end of July what this release date is, should we just anticipate next year? Like, is there a cutoff date, or do you think PlayStation could say, hey, it's August 15th and the game is out first week of November? Like, what do you see as your cutoff?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Nick and Eric may have different thoughts than I do. I think there's more. I think you can cut it closer than you used to be able to, right? Like pre-pandemic, it would have been months in advance. I think you can do it closer. That being said, PlayStation always, they literally always do the run-up of like, hey, we've got our collector's editions. They do the post on PlayStation blog. I think we can say if we don't hear anything by August, it's not coming this year. That is my personal opinion. I think if it is coming this year, we will get something later in June or like even by the last week in July. That's me. I'll go with that.
Yeah. I'd be inclined to agree with that as well. August. Yeah, you can't really even get into September at that point because you're talking marketing and everything else. So yeah, I would think if they haven't announced by August that it's definitively coming this year, then yeah, that's probably a wrap.
Yeah, for me, the cutoff point for me, and this is a little bit sooner than you guys personally. If and whenever this big PlayStation event happens, there will be one in June or July or whatever. If they don't announce a date there, it's 2022. That's just for me personally, because the thing is like they're gonna market this like they've been marketing Ratchet and Clank. They're gonna roll this thing for like 3-4 months heavy to get into people's heads. And I just don't think holding off on a release date till say August, even September, especially if you're gonna launch it in November, you gotta fight Call of Duty and Battlefield for mindshare, plus Halo Infinite, plus whatever else comes out in the fall. Like there's a lot to kind of all fight for mindshare over in the coming months. So I definitely think that it might be smart for them to put in spring and just absolutely do gangbusters in the spring versus trying to fight it out in the fall / holidays. But who knows? Different strokes, different folks, and people at PlayStation definitely know when to release a game. They've been very good about that in the past. So just have to wait and see. All I know is that after that Aloy Melee animation, I have a whole new perspective on how I load Keurig pods in the morning at work. I'm sitting there loading Keurig pods, and all my employees are looking at me like, "What is this man doing in the lunchroom right now?"
That's the new Naruto running at lunchtime, right?
Oh man, yeah.
My daughter has never even seen Naruto, and she Naruto runs everywhere, and I have no idea on who I have to blame for this. But since my wife's laughing, I'm assuming I now know the source.
It could also be a Sonic run, Nick.
Oh, jeez, no. I'll take the Naruto run over a Sonic run.
My daughter told me today that she has a couple of bucket list items that she needs to get taken care of before we go on vacation in June. I'm like, where'd you learn bucket list? Like, what are we doing here? It's like in the Sonic movie. I'm like, okay, well, there you go. The first thing I go to is like, did Ryan say bucket list? So
blame the kid tubers. Blame the kid tubers.
Yeah.
Speaking of blaming the kid tubers, segues, Far Cry 6 got revealed this week. So we'll kind of go roundtable on our general thoughts on what was revealed and everything else. And then, of course, we'll talk a little bit in the subtopic about Ubisoft being like, no, this is an apolitical game. And then the creative director coming out and being like, yes, this is a political game. And we'll kind of talk about that because, the discourse around Ubisoft games since The Division, I think, is they've kind of been skirting around playing with it, but not really wanting to actually touch it. So we'll talk about that in ad nauseum. So Far Cry 6. The only reason I'm buying this game, I said after Far Cry 5, I was like, I'm done. The ending sucked. I hated it. And I wasn't buying another Far Cry game. And then they get goddamn guy from Breaking Bad to be the villain. And I'm like, well, there's $60 out the window because I'll be there just for his performance. But I'm kind of sold on the game. They're doing the cute dog thing to be like, hey, look, people, you can pet a dog. You can pet a crocodile. They're kind of doing the generic Far Cry rollout. And it feels all very samey, but at the same time, I'm still excited and I really hate myself for it. What about you, Zach? Where are you at with Far Cry 6?
Yeah, I'm similarly a sucker where it's like, oh, you put a companion that I can pet. Guess I'm buying your game. But no, I mean, same thing. I thought that 5 was pretty weak. I thought that I think it's what you touched on before, which is like Ubisoft. The thing is everybody makes. I mean, games, all art inherently political. We don't need to get into that, but it's true. All art is inherently political, and it's frustrating because Ubisoft is engaging with themes that seem political. Like, okay, you're the setting of Far Cry 5. We've all been through this, but it's a rural, Western United States, like predominantly, if you look at like geographics, it would be like white conservative, and then Ubisoft went out of their way to like, I guess it was just they touch on politics so often, and then they back away from it, and it pissed me off with Far Cry 5 because it's like you look like you're about to take on white nationalism, and then you don't, and that's frustrating to me because it feels like you want the PR of people to be like, ooh, are they going to say something real here? And then they don't. But I will say that from a gameplay perspective, I'm not sold on the narrative. I don't think Ubisoft has earned my trust in their ability to actually tell a coherent story, whether it's engaging with politics or not. I think Far Cry has stumbled a lot since Voss. They really haven't hit anything for me since then. That said, gameplay perspective wise, I think it looks really fun. They've got some of the zany weapons, like they have the CD launcher, which looked fun, but also like just seeing some of the grittier animations. Like there's an animation where your character is shot and they use a cigar to like cauterize a wound, and like that, I guess it's just these games are super animation heavy and in a way that feels really good, and so like the gameplay seems like it sold me. Even if, and yes, Giancarlo from Breaking Bad being in it is like a huge plus for me. It's a good showing, and like before we get into the subtopic, like I think I'm glad that they addressed it. I'm not super sold on like the way they kind of walked it back, but like you, I said I'm done with Far Cry, and then even last year seeing the initial stuff, I'm like I'm still done with Far Cry, and then I saw it in motion, and I was like, well, that dog does look pretty cute. Like it, yeah.
Not just the dog. They think the crippled dog. I'm like, what? Just in a wheelchair, and I'm like, come on, man.
And like, I don't think
it was placed so perfectly right at the end of the reveal. Like, here you go.
Well, and I saw like an influencer's video presentation, and I saw one of the things you can do. I don't think it was in the Ubisoft's video, but they showed it in the influencer's video where the dog can sneak up on an enemy as a distraction, and then the AI will be like, "Oh, look at this cute dog," and they'll bend down to play for it, or play with it, and then your character can walk up behind and do like a stealth kill, which is just like it's like your little it is like your little buddy that can help you do fucking murder. Like
right.
Oh, I didn't want to be sold, but Eve's got me.
Yeah, honestly, the only thing that could sell me more on is if I can use the dog as a distraction to then RKO an opponent. Like that's the only thing they could do more. But yeah, that pretty much sums it up pretty good. What about Eric? I don't think you've been off of Far Cry for a while, haven't you?
Yeah, Far Cry 3 I absolutely love. I loved everything about it. And I dabbled in Far Cry 4. And then, like much like what Zach said, I was prepared to really get into Far Cry 5 because of what they were promising. And then right at the end, when they walked it all back, I'm like, what the hell's the point? Like, I really thought you guys were about to make, not that you have to go dunking on people, to make this statement, but it is a very prevalent thing that is happening, that is going on. And how amazing would that be to make your statement about it and let us go in and just have fun in this world? And when they kind of walked it back, I was like, eh. And that kind of hurt, like some of what you said, Nick, when as people were playing it, they were kind of disappointed about the overall proceeding. And I was kind of like, all right, there's too many other things to play where I just can't do it. And so then, like I've been talking to you, like in the DM, my biggest concern, and this goes back to like the Far Cry 3 thing with like Voss, is they have this bad habit of playing up their villains, and then the villains don't ever really deliver on a performance. And I'm going to be so pissed if you literally went and got Giancarlo Esposito, one of the guys who can play one of like the best villain ever, and you don't utilize that to the full potential. I'm going to be so pissed if this is one of those, he's a promotional guy and most of us going to focus on something else, which could totally happen. So, but outside of that, it looks like Far Cry. And Far Cry games are fun. They are. I mean, the proceedings are fun. But I'm also just worried too about the Ubisoft formula. And I think what used to be kind of cool, I used to kind of like talk about this in a positive way, like, man, they really have this formula where they kind of utilize it in all their games. And then it kind of became like their Achilles heel. It's like, man, they have this formula and they use it in all their games. And it's to a point where you're just like, you open up the map, icons have been vomited all over it. And then it becomes like an OCD checking off of things as opposed to actually kind of enjoying it. So I'm praying and kind of hoping that we're not going to kind of be dealing with it. But I know it's Ubisoft. That's kind of what it's going to be. But it doesn't mean that I won't play Far Cry 6. I'm just kind of in a wait and see holding pattern on Far Cry 6, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, what about you? When where are you at with Far Cry, and what was really your last experience with the franchise, so to speak?
Yeah, my last, really, it was Far Cry 3. Like that was kind of it, and I never really got into the other ones. I dabbled with 4 at a friend's house, but it was like, I didn't get super into it. Didn't touch 5, didn't touch New Dawn. So I am coming at this from a biased perspective, right? Of like, I'm not burnt on the formula. Kind of like when I went into Assassin's Creed Valhalla last year. Like, I didn't spend 200 hours in Odyssey, so I'm not burned on the formula. I haven't been doing that. So that is a thing to keep in mind. That being said, it looks stupid, it looks dumb, it looks over the top, but they're letting me have a little crocodile buddy who's wearing a vest to do takedowns, and Giancarlo Esposito is the villain. So I'm stupid. I'm very stupid, and those 2 things are more than enough to get me in with just that. I don't know. What do you want from me?
I can't even say anything because, like, very much in the camp with Eric and Zach in terms of, Far Cry 5 had a lot of potential to really hit somewhere narratively, and they used it promotionally, but then did not deliver on it in any sense. The one thing that did absolutely, like, bang about Far Cry 5 was that you had an overweight bear named Cheeseburger that you could command. He was honestly the best thing ever because you had to liberate him from hillbillies that were trying to feed him, ironically, not something other than cheeseburgers. And it's created in such a factor. They're like, how dare they try to feed him something other than cheeseburgers? Kill them and liberate the goddamn bear. And it's like, yeah, free the cheeseburger bear. And it's stupid, but like, that's kind of where these games have kind of gone and have kind of thrived. Because let's face it, the Far Cry formula is you get dropped in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, you get high on drugs, and you kill a bunch of people. That's the Far Cry formula, essentially. And like, it's really hard to argue because I spent more time enhancing myself with drugs in Far Cry 5 to like punch cougars over mountains than I did anything else in the game. And it's just amazing for that.
So this is the thing I have to ask though, which is like, I guess well, it's not even a question, but again, we touched on the politics things a little bit earlier, but like one of the things that I hate to keep bringing up Far Cry 5 because I feel bad about it, but okay, like Far Cry 4 and Far Cry 3 were games about you as a especially Far Cry 3 was like you as a white guy with his white guy college friends going to like a place with brown people, and then you're like shitting on the culture, your character's getting tribal tattoos, and you're killing poor people, and like it feels fucking bad. It does like
Jason Brody, like the most good bro name ever.
Yeah, right? I forgot. Yeah, Jason Brody, like bro is literally the name. Like that sucks. It's bad politics. It doesn't fucking feel good. And then at the end of the game, even though you've killed a bunch of people from the islands, they like induct you into their cult. Like it didn't feel good. And like I think why 5 was so promising was it was like, oh, you've heard our criticism that like, hey, it feels weird to be like a privileged person coming into society and killing people. You're gonna have us go do that like on American soil to like Americans with privilege, and then they back that away. So I am a little bit nervous. So I don't know how much y'all have followed some of the backstory they've set up, but like the guy, my understanding is the guy you report to, the guy who's like training you in the trailer is like ex-KGB. But also like the statement from the narrative director was like, it's a commentary on historical Cuban politics, but it's not referencing modern Cuban politics. Like, and it like trying to divorce those things feels really complicated. And then, like, it's also hard because, you're taking on a dictator and then they're playing with funny themes. And, like, I get why you can't just be, like, heavy as fuck the whole time. Like, you need chorizo or you need the fucking alligator dog, or the alligator and the dog. But I don't know. It's like I'm ready to be excited. But, I mean, how about this? Did the creative director coming out and correcting Ubisoft's previous statements help with your hype? Or is it just one more thing to consider?
I think if you let me tackle this right away, I think it was like a half step in the right direction. Like it was like you're stumbling, but I appreciate the effort. Like I appreciate you not pretending otherwise. Like that's that, and maybe I'm just burnt in this regard. I am burned by Ubisoft because it just became a meme, right? It's like I don't actually. This is a broad, sweeping statement that I'm going to get condemned for. I don't care what the politics of your game are per se, so much as I do care about you not pretending they aren't there. Does that make any sense? Like, like it's more like just if you have something you want to say it, and I'll engage with it. I'll talk about it, but like, don't pretend. Oh yeah, this is a game about revolution, or this is a game about being a special agent in a pandemic and society is being rounded up. But is it political? Oh no, definitely not. Like, come on, y'all. What are we doing here? Right. It was always the farcical nature of that, like the facetious tongue-in-cheek. It became a meme, and I think that's why they walked it back, right? I think that's why he was given permission to say this, is because like they know it's a meme. I'm not being insulting by saying that. They clearly know it's a meme. So sure, it's a small thing, but I appreciate you allowing the creative director to not like have a muzzle on his mouth and be able to say, yeah, like we were inspired by the talk of Cuban revolutionaries. We talked to some of them. We talked to locals. We did research on that kind of stuff. We'll see what it actually means. That's my long-winded spiel in regard to your comment, Zach.
Eric, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this side of things.
No, I'm with Sam. It's like, you have all of the imagery, all of the tone of something that's making a political statement. You can't say, for lack of a better analogy, it's like you're frying cheeseburgers and then calling it tacos. It's like, there's nothing. If you're doing all this research and you're doing all these things, who are you thinking that you're going to like offend by having these elements in a game? You're gonna piss off a dictator? That's kind of what they do. I mean, they can be, heinous, terrible people who do heinous, terrible things. I look at it like this: if you're creating a place and you're creating like a tone that's not directly calling out like a region, but you're using the tones of it to make something of a statement like, hey, the world is shitty. We know this. We turn on the news. The world is shitty. There's nothing wrong with creating imagery that shows that and standing on it. They say, hey, we just kind of want to highlight the fact that shitty things do happen. But at the same time, I don't think anyone's taking Far Cry and looking at it and saying, oh, this is fucked up that they're doing this. Because you're shooting somebody in the face with a CD gun on top of it. So you're reminded that you are playing a video game, but you're kind of giving power to people that says, you know what? I can't necessarily control what happens in my town, in my world, and everything that's happening. But I can take this CD gun and I can shoot this fucking dictator in the face with it. Yeah. And for 10 minutes, I feel really good about that.
Yeah.
Who are you afraid of pissing off? Yeah. And like Zach said, art is politics. Look what happened with The Last of Us 2 on whichever side of it that you fell on. I love the discourse of that game throughout, because that's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to challenge people, whether it pisses you off, whether you love it, whether it makes you uncomfortable, or you're all about it. That's what it's supposed to do. And make it where it fits everybody. And if you're trying to do that, you're never going to succeed with it. You have to put it out there. And then, you're going to get people who love it, people who hate it, people who appreciate it, people who want to shit on it. That's just the nature of it.
Yeah. And see, this is the thing is like, there's games that you can get away with, taking jabs at politics or making fun of things, as long as the overall tone of your game is about that. I'll use Saints Row the fourth Saints Row game, for example. You're the goddamn president of the United States. You fight an alien invasion. You get superpowers. There's a dubstep gun, and it's absolutely stupidly ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It makes some jabs at American politics in general, but overall, the overarching thing is it's a stupid, goofy game that you shouldn't take seriously. However, when you're being trained by an ex-KGB agent to overthrow a dictatorship in some nondescript island, you can't say that there isn't anything inherently political about it. You can't take a political stance on that. That'd be like if you tried to pitch The Division 2 as an apolitical game in 2021.
All right, but also in 2020, okay, like here's the thing, I 100% agree with you, but like I think what's funny is like again, I'm glad that the narrative director was given a little bit more leash to say how the team feels because it's good because I mean it's always been corporate PR that's stepping on the creators, and totally. I think it's worth acknowledging, but I will also say this is the safest game in Ubisoft's recent. I mean, Assassin's Creed aside, or stuff that's like not a modern setting aside. This is the safest opportunity to say it is political, right? Because, Division 2, the first mission is you're taking back the White House with machine guns. That's, buddy. That was political in 2019. It sure as shit goes political after January 6th. Like, it is political.
It hits different, right? Like, it hits a little different looking at it, yeah.
I mean, and Ghost Recon, not Breakpoint, but Wildlands, the Bolivian government wanted to sue Ubisoft because of the way the country was depicted in the game. Like, so I think two Americans, and then obviously we talked about Far Cry 5, I think two Americans, regardless of where you fall on a spectrum, if somebody says dictatorship is bad and our game is political and you're stopping a dictatorship, a lot of Americans, regardless of where they fall on a spectrum, will also be like, yeah, I can get behind that, right? Because like, it has been so ingrained with, I mean, frankly,
100%.
part of it is, American imperialism, but also dictatorships are bad. But like it is a very safe game to make your this game is political, right? Like Far Cry 5 could have been I don't know. We've hit this jump.
No, I agree. Like I mean, I think it's not the safest. Like Assassin's Creed would technically be safer because it's like sure. It happened 800 years ago. Like who's going to get up in arms about the politics of the Vikings versus the Saxons? Come on, like okay, it's done. It's over with. It shaped history. But I do get what you're saying. I absolutely do get what you're saying. I think it will be more interesting, regardless of what Far Cry 6 ends up being, and we'll see what that is. But like, I think it's more interesting. Okay, with Far Cry 7. Whatever setting that is, like with the next Tom Clancy game, whatever setting that is, are you still going to give them that freedom? Because if so, however milquetoast, like, okay, that's a step. Like, all right, we can, if it's a one-off, then like, I don't think you learned your lesson. We'll have to wait and see how that goes for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely think I agree. It's a step in the right direction. It is the safest one that they could hedge their bets on and being like, yeah, see, it's political, but see, it's still bad dictator. So it's okay. It's overall like the safest thing they could do. And, I think this is one of the reasons why I always see people in threads with like Battlefield and stuff. They're like, why don't you do Battlefield Vietnam or da-da-da? Or people are like, why don't people touch the Korean War? And it's like a lot of companies don't want to touch any of these eras where people are still alive from that time period in. Because if you start taking from that, I think that's why this one hit home, and this is why Ubisoft had to release the same as there's people that are still alive from the Cuban Revolution. Like quite blatantly, like I have friends' grandparents that are alive from that still. So sitting there and going, this isn't political, it doesn't really roll in this specific one. And for them to walk it back, it's kind of cool. But like you guys said, need to see more of that going forward for it to actually mean something. And like if they come out and say like the next Ghost Recon game, this is our commentary on United States overreach into third world countries or the Middle East or something, then I'll be like, hey, go nuts. Like if that's the angle you want to play with, go for it. I think more people should go balls to the wall, Spec Ops the line, if they've got the writing talent to make that narrative worth doing. And I think that's the most important part there, is having the talent to handle those kind of topics in a meaningful and, impactful way, or else we just have fucking 6 Days of Fallujah where it's Call of Duty fucking shooting up brown people again, and it's fucking terrible.
And like you remember, like with Call of Duty when they had the terrorists shooting the airport, and how controversial that was. But they gave you the option to not do it if you felt uncomfortable with it. But they stood on it. They were like, you can't hide that these things happen. This is a part of our world, and we're going to put this in because it may make you uncomfortable. You may want to do, you may not want to do it. So we'll give you the option to get out, but we feel it's something that's important to the game that we're making. And it's an important statement to kind of put in there. And they stood on it because they could have easily like pulled it out and been done with it. Yep. So, the next Far Cry, if you want to make a statement and you're going to return to America and let's say like we're going to handle an insurrectionist scene. You know, why not? It's real. It happens. You know, it's like Watchmen doing, you know, bringing light to the Tulsa, you know, massacre. You know, they could have like said, no, we're not going to do that. But look how many people learned that it actually happened. And that is one of the things I still think it was a lost opportunity to really go for it. Like with Far Cry 5, if we can go back to that, because it's like, you can't, these are real things. These are true things that happen. And you can't pretend like, oh, yeah, we're just going to walk back because we don't really want to touch it. We don't want to piss anybody off, you know, because that's how we are where we are now with things.
It is, you know, I know we have another topic, so I'll move this on. But I do think it's funny that like, no matter what Ubisoft game they release, it feels like they somehow stumble into some sort of controversy. Like even Assassin's Creed, like the whole big thing was like assholes wanting to be like, how many women Vikings were there? Like, it's funny. Like they'll make something that they just want. They just like whether it's you know, I mean, whether it's Assassin's Creed or Far Cry. Like no matter what, these games are getting. You know, I think it's just once your budget is over X number of dollars, like somebody will find some reason to be pissed about it. And I do think there's legitimate reasons to get mad about, you know, Ubisoft's stance on politics stuff. But like, there's always going to be controversy, and like I would rather I don't know, like let's just have honest conversations and honest, you know, right. It felt so disingenuous in the past. So I hope going forward, Ubisoft doesn't try to put the genie back in the bottle. And anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing more of the game, and it looks good. It looked, how about this? After watching gameplay, just strictly gameplay, it looked a lot more Far Cry 3 than it did Far Cry 5 for me. And so I'm, again, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
That's where I landed on it. I was like, that looks more like what I want them to get back to. So hopefully when we come back, when this game is out and people had their hands on it, our conversation is, holy shit, can you believe they did this and they did that? And, blah, 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 you know, and it's not us going, yep, they did it again. So, yeah, let's hope.
Also, last thing, I don't think we touched on this. October 7th, pretty good release date. I think Ubisoft is the first AAA studio to firmly put a flag in for where their AAA fall launch game is. I don't think anyone else has done that.
Yeah, I think you're right, because we're still waiting on a lot of things for Battlefield, but a release date is one of them. Need that date for Halo. Horizon is a question mark. Okay, no, I mean, do you count Back 4 Blood? Because it was already bumped to October, so there was that as well. But
I feel like Back 4 Blood's kind of double A, but
yeah, the first.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So exciting times ahead for Far Cry. You know, and at least the creative director was still here to make a statement. Unlike the next discussion topic about the creative writer who is no longer working on a project. Rest in peace, Chris Avalon's.
The creative director. Now, wait a minute. The creative director. It's funny. It's a good segue, but the creative director is still there. It's the writer. It's the lead writer who is adios.
Just let me dunk on Chris Avalon. Let me have this one.
I'm not stopping you from doing that. You can dunk on him. That's fine.
But we got a brand new look at Dying Light 2. It has a new add-on to its name, which I absolutely hate, and I did not memorize at all. It's like "Stay Human" or some stupid bullshit on the end.
Like Dying Light 2, stay real, bro.
Yeah, basically, like it's like when they threw out all of Chris Avalon's writing, they're like, we need to change the name just in case. So they're like, bam. But regardless, Dying Light 2, it's set to come out this December, which is kind of wild because I really distrust AAA games in December now. For some reason, I just have a whole distrust.
That's like one development sprint away from being bumped to 2022. Like if it's December, like I'm not even counting you for like Game of the Year contention because like you are so close to slipping for me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I get it. Like Immortals Phoenix Rising. I love that game. I really enjoyed it actually. But it came out in December and it was I've already formulated my favorite games of the year at that point.
But Techland was really quiet there for a while. All we got was some, reports on what's going on in the studio and, rumors about them being purchased and a whole bunch of stuff, but we really hadn't heard a lot about the game. So they showcased some new gameplay, gave it a release date, collector's edition, and everything else. I myself am not really a Dying Light fan. I never really played the first one. I'm I'll see how it goes in terms of Dying Light 2. But are any of you guys big Dying Light fans or?
I mean, Eric, you can go ahead if you want.
No, I don't really have because I'm the idea of being a Dying Light fan. I have it in my backlog. I've had it in my backlog for a very long time. I like the idea of it. I'm gonna eventually play it, I think.
You're on the spectrum, right? Like you're in that corner. That on the compass somewhere.
Yeah. I'm just happy
I mean the original
before.
Dying Light is a good game.
That's what I always hear. So
that's another thing. The original Dying Light is a great game. It's sold surprisingly well. I think they actually announced recently it's over 23 million at this point. As I remember, planned in 2017, and they actually plans. This was kind of quiet at the time, but because they hadn't announced it, but they delayed their plans for Dying Light 2 because of how well the first Dying Light sold. And they kind of earned a loyal fan base that way. It's fun. Like parkour plus zombies plus first person works surprisingly well. It's a very fun game. Big heavy emphasis on melee combat. And I'll just say very quickly, I like what they're going for in Dying Light 2. I've liked it ever since I saw it at E3 2019. I like the idea of more physics-based parkour, the day-night cycle, and the risk-reward of facing tougher infected at night, but going into the hives to find loot, and this whole idea of society reverting into like a dark, modern feudal age. That's like a really unique vibe, and I enjoyed that. So I'm very, very cautiously optimistic, right? Like I am. Last big Polish game to release in December. You let me down. You let me down big time. But come on, Techland. Like let's do this. Come on, I'm rooting for you. I really am.
Man, think about it. How crazy that was December. That feels like it was like a year and a half ago.
That's because the discourse has been going on for 16 years.
I was gonna say, can you imagine like the hype that we all had for that game when it was announced pre-Witcher 3, and then Witcher 3 came out and we're like, oh shit, the next game's gonna be amazing because this is great. And then like literally has had no positive. Well, I shouldn't say no positive because hopefully development studios take more time and publishers are more understanding. But in terms of like okay, Breath of the Wild had a concrete impact on how third-person games were designed and meant to be played. Nobody is looking at how Cyberpunk was made and was like, let's copy that. Like, right. No, the game had no impact. So yeah, I'm hoping Dying Light 2 is the second Polish game in a year or whatever. I hope it's good. It looks fine. I will say that it's funny. Gameplay looked good, and I was, after we had heard for the last year that had kind of been in like a development slump or development hell, it actually looked okay in motion. I would say that I was surprised that it actually, and look, stream quality is hard to read. It looked a little dated, and like graphics aren't everything to me, but like it looked like a. I mean, granted, it was meant to be a last gen game, kind of. It looked a little dated. Am I alone in feeling that way in terms of like graphics?
No, I kind of agree with you. I think it's one of those things. I kind of felt it with, not to bring it up again, but Cyberpunk as well, that had been in development for such a amount of a cycle that there were certain things that just felt out of place with it.
Okay, and like I want to throw to Eric and Sam, but like really quick, it kind of reminded me. Do you remember when Thief came out? Like Thief was in development hell for so long, 2 generations ago. We were supposed to come out for 360, and then it came out, and we're like, oh, this is what, because it was a 360 game that got ported, basically. Like it looks like, it doesn't look bad. It just looks like an Xbox One game or a PS4 game.
Yeah. It's interesting not to go backwards again, but I kind of felt certain portions of Far Cry 6 kind of looked that same way. I was like, and I know people are going, I'm like, it's like, graphics being what they are, like sometimes they hit, sometimes they miss, but it doesn't mean it's going to be a bad game. It's whatever. Right. People get too fixated on that. But there's sometimes you see things, you're like, yeah, that does look kind of like a holdover almost, like I kind of wonder that about games like Scorn or even like Bright Memory. Like, are they going to have some of those things too? But yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. But sometimes that can kind of work to the aesthetic of something too, just depending.
Well, and like, look, it's hard to place your bets, especially because I think they're using a proprietary engine from inside the studio. But sometimes it's like, okay, older visuals, maybe that means that we're going to get a really smooth performance on the new machines. Like, there's a ton of silver linings. And also, like, just generally speaking, the gameplay's flow looked fine. It was just that, like, some of the facial animations, I was like, oh, this looks, a little stiff. But that's okay. Game looks good. Nick, what did you think of the presentation from last week?
It was good. It feels like
Right.
I hate using the term, but Eurojank is definitively still a thing. There's certain animation styles that just I don't know if that's that hemisphere. They do things differently or wherever the case may be. But there's a certain style. It's kind of stiff. But overall, like I'm interested in it. I'm not sure if I'm going to try play the first one, then pick up Dying Light 2 on sale later. It's really going to depend on me for this one for reviews on this one, kind of where, and not even necessarily like outlet reviews. Like I know a bunch of people are going to buy this day one no matter what and play it. Kind of get some impressions that way because I hate being that guy, but I really got burned with Cyberpunk really, really bad. And now anytime I see a AAA game that just doesn't look polished to the 9th degree, I kind of sit there and go, I can wait. Mm-hmm. It's perfectly fine to wait. And that's I'm kind of wait and see right now. I love some of the stuff they're doing. I love the world elements that they're trying to capture. If they pull off some of the storytelling aspects that they've been kind of talking about, it could be absolute money, but I'm on the fence as it sits right now. What about you, Sam? You enjoyed the first one, so where are you on this one?
I already said I'm cautiously optimistic.
Oh, right.
And I stand by that.
I need to go bed.
That's fine. No, I mean, I'll reiterate that. Like, I want them to pull it off. I really do.
Right.
I really do.
I mean, but you have to be, because, I mean, there was a point where we actually mentioned that, is this game going to get canceled?
Yeah.
We were there, and like you said, like post-Cyberpunk is you have to be cautiously optimistic about it. You have to have that caution, factor to it, sadly. Because truth be told, let's be real, we're still pretty much waiting on Cyberpunk to be developed. If you...
Yeah, considering that they just did you guys see the roadmap for Cyberpunk the most updated roadmap?
The most confusing.
Oh my god, man.
Oh, yeah. That game, honestly, like I hate to say it because people work hard in that game and there's people who bust their ass and developers who are doing the best they can with poor management. But like at a certain point, it's just like, is it worth the time to, you know what I mean? Like some games can be saved and like. I don't know if it can be saved. But anyway, beside the point, does anybody else have anything on Dying Light 2? I mean, the game looks cool. End of December makes me nervous for a delay for next year, but looks, fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that pretty much
I think that sums it up.
Yeah. That's pretty much the safe one. Due to time restraints, we're gonna skip Randy Pitchford's hand pressing Godfall discs to get crossplay for Borderlands 3. We'll save that for a different discussion for another time. I'm sure Randy Pitchford will do something else weird and zany in the next 3 months. They'll give us something to talk about. But, I hate this. The Nintendo Switch rumors are just getting absolutely off the charts. Like literally 50 minutes before this show went live, we're seeing pre-order listings for like June 4th or something, that these are going to go live for these whatever they call this thing. And if they call it the Switch Advance, I'm gonna slap somebody at Nintendo. They either call it the Super Nintendo Switch and everything else is a mistake after that. But
June 4th is a Friday, right? That's this Friday, right?
Yes, I believe so.
I don't know. Nintendo likes to go on Friday, so shit couldn't be that crazy. They like doing stuff on Fridays. So I mean, hey, would you put it past them to be like, oh yeah, go pre-order it now? So I don't know. Crazier shit has happened, man.
I can see them doing Thursday here in the States because Friday it's whatever, is it 12 or 16 hours ahead, Japan?
Yeah.
Anyway, our Thursday is their Friday, and they'll probably want to get stuff out the door. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to announce anything for our Friday and their Saturday. So like I can almost see it being like Thursday night announce pre-orders Friday, but you know what I mean? Just so they can deal with the time zone shit.
Right.
I think look, we've heard rumors around this for a long time. I think things like chip shortage and just general hardware availability makes me question this year's launch. But every fucking rumor says anywhere from September to November, and like no matter what, I think that there's enough smoke and fire with Breath of the Wild 2 that like I see these two things coming together, and I wouldn't be shocked by a reveal this week and then Nintendo showing some Zelda soon after to coincide with pre-orders. Yeah.
And it would kind of fall in line with the rumors. Again, like you said, rumors have been flying crazy that there are like developers who want to show their Switch Pro stuff around the E3 window. So
right.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, right? Is it's Nintendo rumors. That's the entire problem. It's like accurately predicting Nintendo stuff is, I don't know. It's like you have PlayStation, you have Xbox, you have the rest of the industry, and then you got Nintendo way over here. It's like, I don't know. So
are the Nintendo insiders?
Are there Nintendo insiders? The people who want you to believe in Nintendo insiders.
Metroid Prime Trilogy. Yep.
Are they roommates
Trilogy.
with Sony insiders?
I'll say this: it makes sense. I'll say that it makes sense if it happens that way. But it's Nintendo, so if it doesn't, and we're left wondering what on earth is going on in September, I'm not going to be surprised because that's how they roll. Like I can totally see them waiting until October to show and announce this thing, and it turns out it's actually like deep into 2022. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of a weird place with this because, you know, the biggest discussion we've been having over the past few months is chip shortages. You know, it's making the GPU market crap. It's making the PS5, the Xbox Series X hard to find and everything else. Yet today, NVIDIA's like, hey, here's our 3080 and 3070 Ti cards that you can order this week. And I'm like, yeah, two of them, maybe? Like three? Like that's a non-existent stock if I ever saw one. And now Nintendo's repeatedly just going to ghost drop a new version of the Nintendo Switch. Like, it's Nintendo. Like, I could literally just drop a bunch of Nintendo predictions, throw darts at a wall, and I have more likely be right than actually trying to know anything. Because they're incredibly hard to predict. Nobody really seems to have inside info on it.
I feel like the most reliable, Nintendo rumors or news is just like Phil Spencer's fucking desk. Like whatever's in the background. It's like, Phil's got a Switch. That can't mean nothing. Like, right. No, I mean, anything else is hard to predict. Yeah.
Well, people with Phil Spencer's backgrounds, like Adam Jensen going after the Illuminati, right? Just tearing the connections apart, red tape. I'm part of the problem. I'm part of it.
Predicting Phil, that's wild. Is Phil Spencer's shelf is more accurate than Nintendo insiders. That is wild to me. Like 100% wild. Like, I don't know. I'm just taking a wait and see approach because like we've heard about this thing for like a year and a half now at least.
Since 2018, I think.
Yeah.
It feels like 2018, if not definitely since 2019.
But
definitely.
you know what? I kind of feel like there's always a hardware cycle rumor. Like Xbox and PlayStation are kind of guilty of it too. We always have like a year wind up before a reveal of anything. But like with Nintendo, like I remember pre-Switch, it was like 2015. They're like Nintendo NX 4K 60 and a handheld, and they're like, this is the future of gaming from Nintendo. And then they're like, here's the Switch, and people are like, wow, this is weird. I'm never going to play this at the basketball court with my friends. And then like 3 years later, I go to any park and there's kids playing Nintendo Switch. It's wild. It's wild.
Don't forget the rooftop parties.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Switch is the centerpiece of any rooftop party. You know that. Yeah. Come on.
Remember those fan made prototypes? It was like the oval. It was
all
screen.
I remember. Yep.
Look,
the NX rumors were infamous, man. They were infamous.
Yeah.
Look, I will allow Nintendo to release as many weird, like they can call this fucking thing the new Super Nintendo Switch Advanced. I don't care. Just like a new Mario Kart. I'm ready for that. And like they did just drop an update for Mario Party, but I'm always ready to take more boards for that game. Like, look, if it means more new Nintendo first party stuff that they're just doing, like instead of Wii U ports, new games, I'll take that. But no, I mean, it feels like if they're gonna do it, it makes sense to do it this week so people can show their new indies or their new AAA ports next week. I mean, does anybody feel like this is entirely bullshit? I mean, I feel like it's all pretty credible now.
No, it doesn't feel like it's BS. It feels like there's truth to it. I just question the timing.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
I just need Nintendo to come up with a handheld as high quality as the PlayStation Vita. That's all I need. I just need that level of quality in a Switch, and will still not be day one because my kids use my Switch, and there's no way I'm giving them a more expensive toy to break. There's just no possible way.
Well,
Dad, can I
rumor is OLED screen, so.
Oh. It's not even a rumor. Was it Samsung who said they're producing OLEDs for a handheld?
Did they? Oh,
yeah,
I thought it was still a rumor.
Did. It's technically still a rumor. It feels pretty set in stone at this point.
Man, what's this thing going to cost? $400 easy?
I think isn't the Bloomberg report say $100 more than the standard Switch right now? Wasn't it like $399 American? I think.
I could believe that. I could believe that.
Yeah, I can't wait for GameStop to start doing their bundles.
Yep.
No, or the Nintendo. Where are the little handheld only ones called? The lights.
The light, yeah.
Yeah,
those are the ones that like a piece of toast, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't wait till we get to the Nintendo Lite Plus or wherever they're going to call that one. And God, I hate Nintendo's naming strategy. The 3DS was the most convoluted naming strategy for anything ever. 3DS Plus, 2DS Plus. What is going on? I feel like I'm playing multiple playthroughs of a Soulsborne game trying to buy a goddamn handheld for my kids. But speaking of things that, I can't even segue that. But, E3 is right around the corner. It's an exciting time. A lot of people love to overhype themselves and then disappoint themselves. I'm not above doing that. I absolutely love doing that to myself. Come on, Ubisoft, Splinter Cell, baby. But, me and Sam kind of did like a hardcore notes to the grind kind of prediction show last week. So I kind of figured we'd do this week to kind of celebrate it since we had Eric and Zach with us, is kind of go around the table and talk about some things that we personally would love to see at E3. And I want to absolutely stress this does not have to be realistic whatsoever. Me and Sam did this last year, and I was like, Baldur's Gate 3, and we all had a good laugh about it, and then it came true, and it was the weirdest thing. So if you guys want to will anything into existence on this show, it seems to work.
I mean, Eric and I know all too well. We laughed about how there was no way Deathloop could get delayed, and then immediately, the day after. So
that was locked in, baby. We're rolling.
Yep.
We should be playing Deathloop right now.
that one's on us. That one's on us.
Sorry, guys.
We
sorry to everybody.
Yeah, there's a whole level of voodoo that goes on in this podcast when it comes to announcements and release dates and stuff that I don't quite understand, and I fear it. After playing Mass Effect, I believe it's Reaper technology, but we'll move on from that. So predictions, things you want to see. Zach, what's that one thing at E3 that absolutely would like knock your socks off and have you jumping around your living room?
Okay. This is lame, but I would love a new Viva Pinata, a modern Viva Pinata that maybe takes inspiration from some of the more recent iterations of like Animal Crossing and kind of blow up that scale a little bit. Obviously, those last entries are, probably 15 years old now. I'd love to see a new Viva Pinata, but I would also, I guess, okay, we're not going to see it because we said we won't, but I would love to see, I know that the Coalition is working on a smaller project that's, as far as I know, not Gears of War related. I'd love to see what that looks like. And also, like, I think one thing that we don't see enough of is, like, the Game Pass model allows studios to take risk, and we haven't seen that. and obviously, like, it takes a long time for people to make games, but like more weird shit from big, expensive studios from Microsoft would be great. I also think that like I have a dream rollout for what games I want when this fall. Like, here's my ideal thing. This is not based on that much insider information. I think that Microsoft should surprise us and release like middle of September, just drop Halo. Like maybe what if we said like September 17th we see Halo. And which is early. Everyone thinks November. What if we see September? And then I think, early October we already have Far Cry. I think mid-October Battlefield 5. I think where there's smoke there's fire. I think that Battlefield is coming to Game Pass day and date. I think there's a lot of hints there. And then I think in November, I think we could see something like Forza. I know that November is typically where Microsoft puts their bigger things, but I actually think that Horizon is a more popular IP. Even though I love Halo, Horizon was, I think, Horizon 4 was like one of Microsoft's most successful games of all of last generation. I think that game can punch hard and could drop in November and do really well. I don't have any other crazy predictions. I mean, I guess I would love to see Wolfenstein 3. I think it's way too early, but I would love to see them. I played a lot of Youngblood. I didn't love some of the narrative direction. I like the twins as characters. I just wish that they kind of closed off BJ's story a little bit more. So I would love to get some closure for Wolves 3. And also, I don't know, maybe see what Arcane Austin is up to. What about y'all?
Eric, absolutely jump in because you weren't with us last week, so would love to hear some wild and zany things.
Well, to answer what would have me cartwheeling around the living room will be a Return to Dishonored.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be my wild, like, out there dream. Yeah. So, in my opinion, it's been too long. Sam probably feels the same way. Yeah, so we can do that.
I agree, but I also think it's been too long if we don't have one every year. So,
that's true. That's true too. For something crazy, I was actually thinking about this the other day because I think I was listening to might have been a podcast I heard on, but a ton of survival horror and also in playing. Like an evil villain, even call that survival horror, like at this point. But I think it'd be really cool if we got a new Condemned.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like a modern Condemned, like with a lot of the, the things that we've seen in games, modern gaming and everything. I think that would be like a surprise out of nowhere. Most people, when you start naming games that we've seen from like the old Xbox era, we saw, you always hear people mention, like Mech Assault, or they mention, Crimson Skies or something like that. But I'm like, yeah, Condemned was badass, man. So, like, go back to that. So, yeah, I think I'm kind of with Zach too. Let's just get crazy, do some like off the wall shit. Like, I still want to see a game in the Halo universe that's third person and a Spartan that deals with stealth, goes on covert missions on their own, and just wreck shit. The things that Chief won't do, they send this guy in to do, or this girl, or whatever, and you get to create it and just go. I still want that. That would be super wild, super crazy. We're not going to see that at E3 obviously this year, but Nick said will something into existence, so I'm still hoping for something like that because we also don't get that many stealth games either. So
it's true.
What would fix that?
No. No Splinter Cell.
That's dead to me, Nick. I told you I won't even invoke the name anymore. So yeah. Oh, and I would still like to see Sunset Overdrive too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's either Resistance or Sunset Overdrive 2 from Insomniac, because there's no way Drew Murray just up and left and then went back for nothing other than those two babies that he loves to death.
Yeah.
And I will put
that with a feather in some way. Like, hey man, you want to do this? There's something there.
Yeah, no, there ain't no way Drew Murray went back to Insomniac Games to do Spider-Man 2. I'm just saying that. It just doesn't strike me.
I'm going to be bookmarking this for no particular reason. Just no particular reason. I'm bookmarking that moment. Continue.
I don't want to derail. I just had this crazy, stupid thought talking about Sunset Overdrive. As I was thinking about this the other day, and I said, if Microsoft would have really doubled down on that, they could have probably beat Fortnite to the punch with some things. Because you think about what Sunset Overdrive was doing, how crazy that could have been as a battle royal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the traversal. I'm not even a Fortnite person, but I'm just kind of looking at it like, man.
The thing
I
is,
mean, Epic struck lightning in a bottle with that thing because, you know,
They
considering
did.
what Fortnite started as, you know, you can armchair quarterback it, but just a zany world of Sunset Overdrive could have just been crazy shit happening.
I think like the hardest thing is that like, look, Microsoft of the last 2 or 3 years is very different from the Microsoft we had, you know, earlier in last gen.
Yeah.
But
Right.
like I still don't think that they are a very reactive company. Like I think that they are usually pretty slow to the punch. I mean, we're still dealing with like Xbox Live Gold and like how long that transition took.
Mhm.
And like I agree with you because Sunset Overdrive was amazing and like they had a hand in PUBG's console port. So it's like, okay, you're instead of having like, I don't know if y'all remember this, but Coalition sat down with I forget the name of the company now, but now it's called PUBG Corp. They sat down with them to teach them how to do console controls and make the game feel good on consoles. Like, no, don't put Coalition on that. Just have Coalition prototype with another suit. Like, they're you know, I like Microsoft stuff, but I just wish they'd be a little more reactive. But okay, you just got me thinking. I can't get off of Condemned. Like, imagine if Coalition's small game was just even if it was like Blue Point's take on remasters of Demon Souls, like they just have like Unreal Engine 5 come back through and redo Condemned. Oh,
That's nice.
God.
No, but you nailed it. Like if you're going to do a Game Pass, then this is your time to just go nuts. Just people are going to talk their shit no matter what. But you never know what you may get out of it. Just throw it in there. You know, let people go crazy. Like, just throw the money at them. And granted, you know, you're probably going to get some
bleeding edges.
Some people like to say the passion project, but you know, to be fair, those started in a certain way.
Yeah.
If you can sit down and say, look, we have this budget, we have this plan. Let's get a little crazy. Let's do a little experiment. Because you're right. They're kind of slow to the punch on that, except for when it comes to the hardware side. They're always sort of like, you know, hitting the puck along where it needs to go, you know, being where the puck is, not where it needs to be, and doing that, you know, Ethernet in the first Xbox and things like that, and services and back compatibility, all that stuff's paying off. But if they can get that kind of thing going on the software side of it, you never know what could happen.
Yeah,
So.
I definitely agree with you. I think one of Xbox's biggest strengths, and still to this day, is their hardware team is miles above a lot of other hardware teams in terms of, you know, the gaming industry as a whole. That's not against anything else. That's just a phenomenal team that does a lot of stuff. And I think the software division has been kind of struggling to find its footing, and, you know, hopefully they'll hit their stride with that. And, you know.
So Nick, what you're saying is we're going to get a $400 Switch Pro that you still can't chat on?
No, you have a cell phone.
like, why do you want us to do that?
Don't you guys have phones?
never gonna forgive Reggie's explanation because for that is we're Nintendo. We do things different. Like, motherfucker, some things you shouldn't though.
Reggie literally explained that and then walked out the door.
No kidding. Jesus. All right, but okay, Nick, do you have any?
What was it about the whole amiibo? I was just gonna say, like, on the whole Nintendo thing, like the paid amiibo that adds fast travel to Skyward Sword HD, and when a journalist, I think it was at Waypoint, I think it was Patrick Klepek, someone tell me if I got that wrong, like asked them about it, they directed him to the pre-order link instead of answering his question. Like, just 10 out of 10, Nintendo. 10 out of 10.
Look, though, the thing is Nintendo knows their audience, though, is they will put up with this bullshit and they will buy it. They don't care. They ported Wii U games for full price and people didn't go, you know, this is bad. Like, yeah, there was people online that said that, but everyone was like, ooh, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, yoink. You know, people do not give a shit when it comes to Nintendo. They will buy anything. We question every purchase we make except Nintendo. And it's wild. It's wild. Like, it's the same thing with Animal Crossing, like the whole one island per Switch. That is absolutely ludicrous to this day. But that game sold gangbusters, and me and my wife even at one point were like, maybe we should get a second Switch so we can play again. Like, that's the wildest thing.
We bought a second Switch, and I still don't play it. So, yeah.
Yeah, because the funny thing is, like, I bought Animal Crossing for my daughter, and I said, why don't you ever play it? She said, well, she's waiting for my friend's daughter to play it with her. I'm like, you're probably never going to play it because it's just that experience is just not going to be good for you. Because you're going to want to chat and talk to her about it, and I'm going to have to get the phone, and you guys are going to have to, like, it's going to be a whole thing. So I don't even push the issue. Yeah.
Thank God for those original Nintendo games that make that online service worth it. Thank God. Sam.
Big old cup of nostalgia.
Yeah, big old cup of nostalgia for, what was it, Bonk Man or something? Sam, what was that game that released? It was like Bonk something. Help me.
I don't know. I don't remember. But you want some wild and zany
yeah,
E3
I want some wild and zany Tolbert predictions. Come on.
All right, we'll start off a little milder and then we'll get spicier as we go along. Okay.
Okay.
Milder. Obsidian will show up, but they're not just going to give us an update on Avowed. Like, they're not just going to give us a gameplay trailer for Avowed and talk about what that game is. They're going to announce, by the way, we know y'all love the Outer Worlds. Here's a quick look at the Outer Worlds 2, which we're also working on right now. And they're going to show that. I think that would be nice. Just say, because here's the thing I see. They just brought in Bethesda. They brought in Bethesda Game Studios. There's In Exile. Obsidian is hungry. They're going to want to flex. They're going to want to say, no, we're the kings here. We're the kings. You go work on Starfield. We're doing it. We can handle multiple RPGs and we can get them out before you can. Just get a little friendly rivalry going on in there. So I think we see that from Obsidian. They try to pull a double album on us. And then a little zanier, I think we see Arcane Austin's project. And it is, I want it to be Dishonored. Actually, this isn't really that zany. I think it's going to be a new IP. I really do. And I'm for that. I'm totally for seeing a new IP from Arcane Austin. But if you want to get zany, what would be wild? Announce Halo Wars 3 alongside Halo Infinite. In addition to showing us Halo Infinite, say, oh, by the way, we know you love the Banished so much. Here's a continuation of the story in Halo Wars 3 for the RTS crowd. And we've been working on that as well. I don't think there's any remote chance that happens, but I think
that's the announcement we deserve. But
right, no, exactly.
Wait, so Sam,
that's what I've got.
Sam, I gotta ask though. So you mentioned Obsidian showing Outer Wilds 2, but you know what would be a little spicier?
Hit me.
Is if they did Fallout New Vegas 2.
That would be spicier, but I think that's what everyone's predicting. I think everyone is waiting on that Fallout New Vegas 2 or Fallout New Orleans or whatever they call it. That's why I think they're going to sneak in with, no, we got our game. This is our stuff. We made this. We made the Outer Worlds. We're not using someone else's IP. We can do this. Got this.
I feel like there's more bad blood than people want to acknowledge between like management at Obsidian and management at Fallout. Like I'm sure like there's probably like they're all in the same, we have the same dad now, but we're not cool. Like it's still kind of like it feels like they're still Anyway, I think Outer Wilds 2, that seems super likely, and I think it looks cool. I'm interested to see what they do with budget now too. Good prediction.
Yeah, because I love Outer Worlds. I love the Outer Worlds, but it was made on a budget. Definitely.
Did I just say? Did I just say Wilds when I meant to say Worlds? Did I just do the classic mix-up?
Yeah.
They're interchangeable.
Classic
yeah, everyone knows what you're talking about.
Same game.
Yeah, I want to see what the Outer Worlds becomes with a no budget restraint, so to speak. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Keep the door open on that one.
So
I still have to play those DLCs, by the way.
Yeah, I do too.
Hey, they added the 60 FPS patch. They added that now, so.
Ooh, I can whack people with a wrench in 60 FPS now. Woo! So I only deal in spice because as a white person, that's what I'm known for is spicy.
Seasoning.
Right, guys? Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to throw this this is going to be completely wrong. I self-admit this is wrong, but this is why I actually want to happen. This whole Omen teaser for Arcane Austin actually isn't a new IP, and it's Arcane doing their take on Quake. And people can fight me to the end of time, but I so want Arcane to get their hands on Quake, because what the coolest part about Quake is like, yeah, I kind of played like Doom and everything else, but the world was way more interesting to me than, you know, Doom was aesthetically. And I feel like I know everyone's like, well, it's gonna do Quake. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want Doom 2016 of Quake. I want to see someone take a different spin on Quake. And, you know, get Trent Reznor back to do the goddamn soundtrack and we'll be gold. Mm-hmm. I know Sam's sitting there going, you are so wrong right now.
No, actually I'm not. I think that would be cool. I think that would be really cool.
Sam, should I share my big brain absolutely not going to happen theory on what Omen actually is? Okay, so I was talking with Sam about this. And again, I do not think this is what happened, but it would be fucking spicy. Look, we all know that Hardsuit Labs has had a really tough time with Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. We also know that Microsoft and Paradox have a relationship. Not a lot of people thought acquisition for a while. I don't think that's going to happen, but they have a relationship, and we know that Microsoft has spent some money on marketing around Bloodlines 2. In fact, I think it was going to be in Game Pass day and date. I want to say was guaranteed at one point. I
don't think they ever said that, but they had the marketing deal.
I was going to say I thought that was part of the E3 thing. Either way, Microsoft definitely has some marketing money here. What if? And then of course, I think you all know this, Paradox pulled Hardsuit Labs, the people who they bought to make this game, off of the project. What if, Microsoft leaned in and said, what if Project Omen from Arcane Austin becomes the new, because they're throwing out, it seems like they're going to throw out everything from Vampire Masquerades 2. What if Project Omen from Arcane Austin became the reboot of Vampire Bloodlines?
Oh, that's some
again,
big brain shit right
there. I
mean,
not going to happen, but also it would be interesting to see Microsoft kind of loan out, kind of not loan out this weird project with Paradox. I also think that Arcane could probably do it and do it well, but unlikely, but could be cool if they did that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, God, now I want that more. Damn it, Zach.
Yeah.
It is big brain. I told him that when he told me, I was like, it's not happening, but I respect this energy. I really do. We need more nonsense like that in the industry. We need more you could not see this coming type blinded sides.
My two non-spicy ones are just more personal ones per se. Is I want to see Psychonauts 2 launch this summer, July, August, show a new trailer, launch date, boom, it's out. Let's go. I want Psychonauts 2 so bad. One, because the original Psychonauts was amazing. Shout out to Eric for convincing me to play it. But two, because I want Double Fine to get started on Brutal Legends 2, because there is no fucking way that Tim Schafer signed over Double Fine without going, yeah, I need the budget to get Jack Black back so I can do Brutal Legends 2, right? Right here. There's no way. There's no way that's not happening. So let's scoot that along. And honestly, my number one thing, and it's stupid because I know there's a good portion of the population that's hoping this too. I just want Halo Infinite to be good, man. I want the multiplayer to look amazing. I want to fall in love with Halo multiplayer again. I tried playing 5 and I just cannot get into it. I play the Master Chief Collection and then I just end up playing 1, 2, and 3 in campaign, and then I kind of goof around and swat a bit, but it's just not pulling me in. I just miss being in love with Halo, and I really hope Halo Infinite is that game. I just don't know if it is.
I think just speaking from personal vibes, I think that Halo Infinite, I think the multiplayer is going to be heavily leaning on 2 and 3. And I think that you're going to see maybe some of the locomotion from 4. And frankly, Reach had Sprint too. I think you're going to see, Sprint is going to be there. But I think you're going to see Spartan abilities pulled back and be deployed like pickups like you would see in Halo 3. I would say I feel exceedingly confident the multiplayer, if you've liked Halo 2, 3, and I like 5. 2, 3, and 5, I think that this game is going to appeal to you. I am significantly less confident in the single player. But I think I think based on their pitch, I think it's actually okay if like year one of Halo's campaign isn't incredible, right? Because like Destiny 2 or Destiny 1, like the base content stuff was like promising, but let's check in a year with an expansion. And I think you could see the same thing for Halo. But I think that they wouldn't go all in on free to play multiplayer if they didn't think they had something promising.
Yeah.
And I think Valorant, even though Valorant is fresh, it's also a bit old school. Like I think that there is an audience for, a little bit nostalgic tilted stuff. And frankly, I think Xbox just said they hit 10 million players for MCC on PC. Like I think that we could see this game be huge this fall. Not Battlefield, not Call of Duty, but huge.
Yeah. I had a wild one too. I can't.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No. I lost it. I lost it a long time ago. The only other one I got is because I have to keep on brand, and branding is everything. Baldur's Gate 3 for early access on via the Xbox Game Preview, and super bold and predictive. This is definitely not going to happen. Please don't anyone tag me in this. And Microsoft buys Larian because it's the last fucking independent RPG studio on the market.
You ever just think about how funny it is that Baldur's Gate 3 already is out on Stadia? It launched day and date on Stadia.
I know. And three people. Yeah, and those 3 people that played it there were really excited.
You picked it up on PC, didn't you, Nick?
Yeah, because I remember going, I could play it on Stadia. And then I looked at my internet speeds, and my friend bought Stadia, and we have similar internet speeds. I was like, you know what? Maybe I can wait to experience Baldur's Gate 3 so it's not like 420p at 18 FPS. For adjustment facts, my internet isn't the greatest, so game streaming isn't really an option in my house. But I'm really, what I want from this E3 the most is I just want surprises. And what I mean by surprises is like, we live in this constant 24-hour news cycle where everything's always leaking, dropping. We've been seeing previews and trailer cuts of Battlefield for the goddamn past month and a half leading up to this reveal. Who knows how true they are or what they look like or whatever. But it kind of takes away some of the excitement for it. So I legitimately get excited when I just see something there where I'm like, whoa, where'd that come from? Like, even to harken back to like Vampire Masquerade, like when they announced that they were doing a sequel or a follow-up or whatever you want to call what that was going to be, I was like, that's really cool because that's not something I ever saw coming back. And I just want to see more of that kind of stuff where you're kind of sitting there and you're generally surprised by where you didn't sit there and predict what it was going to be. We're not getting, Final Fantasy 7 Part 16 or whatever the hell's going on over there. But
so what you're saying is you want Rise Son of Rome 2? Is that what you're... Is that the kind of left field announcement you're looking for?
No, I want Crytek to release something that isn't remaking Crysis. How about Crysis, but it's a battle royale? No.
What if I told you, too bad, it's coming?
No. I don't want it.
Too bad.
Anyone else got a little bit of spice left in the tank before we wrap up here?
I got a little.
Okay,
I'll go really quick if that's okay, Zach.
Right. Absolutely.
So I think that we are going to see an exclusive game from either Microsoft or Sony. I don't know who it'll be. It'll be one of the two. An exclusive Star Wars game announced in the next couple of months. I think one of the two. Well, one of the two has scored some big Star Wars game as like Disney trusted us. They came to us. They letting our teams handle it, and they're going to announce that in either June or July. I'll put that spice out into the world.
So, Sam, I like that, and bear with me. Do y'all remember? I don't know how much y'all follow the rumor mill, and it's hard to keep up with Xbox rumors, especially because they get out of hand so fast. But do you remember a few weeks ago when people talked about a Mandalorian game, and they're like, "Oh, maybe the Coalition's helping on that"? Did y'all see that?
Yeah, and then the Coalition stepped in and were like, "No, we're not.
No, we're not doing that." And then it's also worth remembering that I believe it was Ubisoft who said they are explicitly doing a Mandalorian game.
They said they're doing a Star Wars game.
They said they weren't doing a Bad Batch game.
They aren't doing a Bad Batch game. Look,
okay, that's right.
All I'm saying is that there's been a lot of smoke and a lot of fun. Look, I'm big brain. This is not anything. But
of course.
What if Microsoft scored an exclusive with Ubisoft to bring that Star Wars game to Xbox and PC or something like that? I mean, they've done that. Ubisoft is open to those type of things. Every time a new console launches, they're open to it. Or like Zombie U. I don't know. I would love to see a Star Wars game that's got big budget.
Here. I'll one up you. So what the Coalition distinctly said is they said they had nothing to talk about at this time. They never directly said we aren't doing this. So I will use wording to my advantage here to say that they are doing because you think smaller scale. What could Coalition be doing on a smaller scale? It's Star Wars Commando 2. And I will fight anyone. That game would be amazing. The Coalition could do it so well, and we need it, and it's never going to happen, and I'm so sad about it.
Look, as long as you can have that, I'm just hoping that one day somebody like Arcane, who's really good at immersive sims, could do like a bounty hunter game set with the immersive sim. Like, look, I don't know. I actually think we're going to see a lot from Arcane. I don't think people always remember this, but they launched Dishonored 2, Prey, and Death of the Outsider in 10 months, because they launched in November 2016 was Dishonored 2, May Prey, and then September was Death of the Outsider. Like those studios can churn shit out. Like I wouldn't be shocked if Omen is not far behind Deathloop. I don't know.
Yeah, and when was the last time Arcane Austin fired? That was the Prey DLC. Prey DLC.
No, Mooncrash. I think. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think Mooncrash was actually handled by Leon. Despite the original game being Austin. No.
Mooncrash was handled solely by Austin.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah. So that was
but your point is correct,
right?
Zach. Like the point you're going for here is the two teams can handle quite a bit. They have juggled quite a bit. So like even with the pandemic, I mean, and I'm biased, of course, but Eric is with me and you're with me. Like, don't rule Arcane out. Arcane are amazing.
Yep.
And to Zach's point about Wolfenstein 3, I actually think we'll see Wolfenstein 3 revealed at E3, and I think it'll launch like early next year. Because remember when they announced the Machine Games was doing Indiana Jones, they said they were doing had started pre-production on Indiana Jones. Machine Games co-developed Wolfenstein Youngblood with Arcane Leon. And, that wasn't even the full Machine Games team. They're quite clear about that. So what has the main team of Machine Games been doing since Wolfenstein 2?
And I mean, I think you're 100% right. And I also think that, I believe Wolfenstein 2 wasn't announced until E3 and then launched in October. So and I mean, that just follows the typical Bethesda publishing route. But I mean, again, I think COVID probably means it's pushed back, just because, but
sure.
I would love to see it. I would love to see Wolfenstein 3. We're just overdue for it. I just really want to see BJ punch some more Nazis. I'm always hungry for it.
Kill Mecha Hitler. We need to kill Mecha
Hitler. It's time.
Yeah.
Mecha Hitler. Oh, I'm just waiting for them to finally stop being cowards and finally cross the Doom and Wolfenstein universe over in a proper game, and then we'll really, Demon Hitler is like the next big thing. I'm telling you, that's the next big enemy in that universe. But
are we still doing Wild? We're still staying Wild?
Yeah. I'm talking about Demon Hitler. Yes, we're still in Wild territory.
Okay, all right. Because we've been talking a lot about Xbox. Let me shift over to Sony. How absolutely wild, after all this mockery, would it be if the next God of War is a smaller Miles Morales type experience, and it does launch in 2021 after being revealed in July? They showed the title, they showed the trailer and all that in July, and then they launch it in November. And it actually makes this year on Horizon. Doesn't? Hey, we're staying in Spiceland.
No,
right? So I just want to throw that out there.
Listen, this is like the 6th time on this podcast that you've brought up a smaller scale God of War game, and I literally want to throat punch you every time you do this. Because, like, you know what? I'll take the hot take in the room. Miles Morales was, way better than the first Spider-Man game because it better understood its length. It didn't pad out the time, and there wasn't bullshit stealth missions with Mary Jane. They could have done something with Mary Jane that was not stealth missions. They could have done something intuitive there. They didn't. Miles Morales was a better game, but I do not want an in-between God of War game. I want them to continue that story where they are and take it forward in a meaningful way. I don't want them to take a half step so I have to wait even longer for a meaningful step, if that makes sense. Unless they want to spend a whole game where they flesh out Atreus as redacted. I don't know. Like, I think we're more likely to see Sony and Santa Monica's teaser for their sci-fi game than we are going to see a small-scale God of War game this year.
Mm.
I would love that, Sam. So, Sam, is your prediction that we're only getting one more Sony exclusive this year after Deathloop, but you're just saying it would be God of War and not.
Yeah, like Horizon slips to like February 2022, but God of War is a $50 Miles Morales length game, and it ships in like November.
Sony going back to the $50 price point is the most unrealistic part of this prediction.
Fair.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that'd be exciting. I think hearing rumors that Barlog is not helming Ragnarok and that he's head down on a sci-fi project, I could believe that it's a smaller project. I still think it's next year. But I like the spice. I like where your head's at.
Mm-hmm. Gonna get some Returnal DLC. Returnal 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Mm-hmm.
Returnal 2 with autosaves. Returnal 2 DLC or Returnal DLC, quality of life improvement. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Y'all that beat the game, y'all are built differently than me, and that's 100% okay. And I am fine with that. My PS5 does not like rest mode, so until it likes rest mode, Returnal is just going to be on the return shelf for right now. But
speaking of the PS5, because I'm just going to keep on extending us out here, we're in June. It's June 1st. We're going to hear about that SSD port expansion soon.
No,
right?
No, you're not.
Right?
No, you're not.
I don't know. It's just we're in June, so
they're giving you that with the Horizon release date.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, yeah, I can see that, Eric. That makes sense. That's fine because we're getting kind of crammed here. That SSD does not have a lot of space.
All right, so wait, what comes first? VRR software capabilities or the ability to expand your VRR SSD expansion?
Honestly, I think SSD expansion. Okay. I don't think VRR is a priority for them, even though it should be.
Fair enough.
All right, so I'll pull one out. I'll pull a spicy one out there and just make it as stupid crazy as I can. Konami will answer the call for Castlevania. That will come back, and they will license out the RE engine to build it on.
This is the most unrealistic one yet. I love it.
Hey, we're gonna get crazy. Nick wanted spicy. Let's get crazy.
I love
it.
Konami doing something with their IPs. That is as spicy as it gets.
Yep.
Honestly.
Will it into existence, man. I mean,
look,
Castlevania is amazing.
Yeah. Konami sits on that mountain, and they're like, "We hear your cries, and we say no." That's how they get down.
I still remember when Konami teased Pyramid Head, and people lost their shit, and then it was like Pyramid Head's coming to Metal Gear Survive, and the internet collectively went, "Really?
Sunday."
You know what though? I will put credence to this though. Is if Konami's not looking at what has been done with the Castlevania anime show, which I don't like anime as a general rule of thumb, but the anime series for Castlevania is phenomenal. They're not looking at how many people are interested in that. and the kind of interest that's drumming up behind a lot of their quote unquote dead IPs, they've got to be looking at something. Whether they do it themselves, I don't think Konami will ever do it themselves again, but they will take people's money for people to do it themselves. Yeah. I think we're a couple of years. I say a couple of years because, we had that whole rumor about them going or shopping Silent Hill around and being like, you pay us $100 million and you can make a Silent Hill game.
Gamescom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gamescom.
Yeah, Gamescom. Gamescom. I think the Silent will be over in August. That's not a very good pun. I think you'll hear about Silent Hill in August at Gamescom.
Hey, Sam, you remember when we did our beginning of 2021 predictions and a certain somebody said that Silent Hill would come back in 2021? You remember that? You remember that little tidbit?
You and half the internet.
Okay.
Shut up. Hey, you know what, man? I hope you get it right. You're gonna need the points. You're gonna need the points for sure. So I hope you get it.
I like how you turned that into a subtle dig at the end there. That is the most Tolbert thing to do ever. Like, I can't even put into words.
I'm just pulling that out for just the sheer fact that Konami's name was mentioned in the initial E3 announcement, and then in true Konami fashion, they pulled back. They said, no, we were going to provide the bottled water for E3. I don't think going to be there. So
see, I'm honestly waiting for them to actually get the balls one day to make a games event and then reveal a pachinko machine on stage just to see the reaction.
Big Peggle 2 unveiling announcement style where the guys like jumps up and down, pachinko machine comes out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You think, there's tons of wild things that could happen. Now to wrap up, there was something that made me giggle. I want to see if you guys think there's any credence to it. If you're watching the rumor mill on Reddit, the subreddit Gaming Leaks and whatnot, is always a bungle of fun. But somebody posted a invitation to PSX at the end of June, I believe it was a June 28th event that PSX was coming back. Do you guys think that's realistic? I'll go last because I have my own opinions on this. But do you think PlayStation Blade brings back PSX at the end of June as their blowout show, and they use the PSX moniker to drive up hype for that summer showcase?
I'm going to say no, because I think PSX carries a in-person connotation. That's my issue, personally. So that's what I'll say.
Again, I'll say, crazier things have happened. I could kind of like go against the grain of what Sam's saying. They could kind of like reintroduce it that way, kind of get that hype cycle going. And then when time for live events to start happening again, it's kind of back in the lexicon and the mind share again type of thing. So I'll fall in between that.
I think based on what we were seeing with Horizon Forbidden West, not having a release date yet, I think a late June makes sense. I think it also lets them look at other publishers' release dates and maybe adjust if they've got some wiggle room. I think I'm ready to say it. I think that we will absolutely see more from Sony at the end of the year. I don't know if they're going to use that exact branding, but I bet by the end of June we hear something from them for sure.
Absolutely.
We gotta.
For me, it feels weird if they brought back the PSX branding now after it's been gone for a couple of years. I don't mean it's weird as in they shouldn't bring it back. I think they absolutely should bring PSX back, because that was an incredible fan-focused event and, everything else. But it feels weird that to bring it back when we can't do in-person events. Because, if you did a PSX when we can all get together and go and hang out again, you're like, hey, pandemic's over. Let's all hang out at PSX. That seems like such a big swing for them. I just don't see them wasting it for an online event. Because, let's face it, they could slap a State of Play logo on it. If they show off good games, no one gives a shit about what the event's called.
No, but that's why I think, like now would be like the better time to reintroduce PSX. I mean, because you could use the name and then you can kind of roll that into something else, calling your online event, the PlayStation experience. I think that would kind of fall in line with it. It doesn't have to necessarily mean the in-person event. You could still have things around it, sort of like what Microsoft was kind of doing with FanFest, or trying, attempting to do with FanFest. You can kind of do some things like that. Say, hey, we have, giveaways, discounts on merchandise. It's not in person, but we're going to do this. And then when timing allows, we plan on look for future information on PlayStation experience, stuff like that. So I actually think if that is real, if that is true, this would be a good time to kind of start rolling that out again.
Yeah. I just doubt the validity of it because I don't believe anyone would sit on it for that long. This would be something they'd be hyping into, and there's no way if there was actual invitations going out, somebody would have leaked this credibly by now. And I just don't see it. And the post,
there's no PlayStation insiders.
Oh
well. So
there is. I don't know. I'm not getting into this. I'm not getting into insiders versus. I just can't. I can't. This is why people were screaming at me about BioShock all week, and I just told everyone to shut up. But that's the show. Great predictions. We're probably all going to be wrong on a lot of it, but when the one weird zany thing you heard here tonight comes true, just remember where you heard it from. And we actually have a better prediction record than most Reset Era forum posters. So that is something we are very proud of here. With a 3% accuracy rating on this podcast. We're very proud of that here.
Did you guys happen to touch on compulsion last week?
No.
In any way? Because I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that we
did not. We did not.
I'm hoping that we finally see something from them because I'm still maintaining that they're my dark horse, developer.
That's fair. That's fair.
Nobody's really talking about it.
They're a good dark horse pick.
Yeah. A lot of people, everyone kind of focuses on In Exile and Obsidian, but I'm like, Compulsion to me has always kind of been like there. They just didn't have the resource and everything else to kind of go where they want to go. But as far as ideas go, like they have it. So now kind of matching the two together, what can they come up with?
Yeah.
I actually think there's something there, Eric, too, because, I mean, I can't remember what the context was, but in the last 6 months, Phil Spencer gave an interview where somebody asked, who's your favorite? And he made some joke that, like, oh, you can't pick your favorite kid. But he said he was really excited to show what Compulsion has next. And like, we've kind of hinted around it tonight, but, like, Phil hints at shit all the time on purpose. Like, I would not be shocked if we see, in the next 2 weeks at their event, if we see what Compulsion's up to next. It's also been 2-ish years since We Happy Few, so seeing something now for another, I think it's time, and I think you're right. I think we have a lot of promise with bigger budget and more experience under the belt, and also a substantially larger team. I think they're poised to finally do something awesome. Good call.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, and people should go play We Happy Few. Now that it's patched, everything else. I had some save errors when I reviewed the game. That caused some progress loss that really sucked at the time. But when I went back and played through it, it's weird because it's a survival-based game, but it really had some heavy BioShock immersive vibes to it. And obviously Compulsion, some of the team from Irrational. So obviously, some of that falls into play there, but just some really interesting world design there that really reminded me that after I played it too, this is something Sam will hearken to. It's very much pathologic like in terms of its world design and everything else and character design. So, it's really, it took me doing a lot of the side stuff and everything, like 20, 25 hours.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
It's not like some 70-hour epic. It's like, I'm pretty sure you can play through it in like 13, but I ended up getting wrapped into some side stuff and doing a lot of stuff in it. So,
okay. It's good to know.
Yeah. It's a good game. It's on Game Pass. I think probably should be. And it has decent DLC too, because I remember Sam talking to me about the DLC at one point too. So,
yeah, the DLC actually introduced to me personally some better ideas than the main game. Like they added like whip gameplay in the final DLC, and they added some more immersive sim light concepts in terms of how you navigate the environment. So like I don't know. Maybe this E3, especially with the pandemic, is just a hair early, but I do agree with you that they're a good dark horse, Eric. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be interesting. We don't have long to wait now. The whole showcase list should leak this week because someone will have it taped to a desk somewhere, and it'll be a good time. And, you know, people are going to be excited, and the online environment's going to be absolutely fucking miserable. So it'll be a great time, as it always is around E3. And Sam will be sweating doing E3 coverage, and I'll be sipping a whiskey and enjoying myself. So for the first time in like 4 years, wild times. But we will get to outros now. So I'll start with Zach. Zach, if there's any socials you want to plug or any content you want to plug, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And thanks again, all y'all, for having me on. It's always fun to come on here and especially this time of year and do big predictions and also some crazy stuff too. But yeah, so if you're not following me already on Twitter, you can find me at Zach R. Robertson, so double R's there. Where I will be tweeting about random shit, mostly just selfies of me drinking these days, but also gaming takes and the like. But also I run a podcast with my buddy Maddie called at Matchpoint Pod, where we don't do weekly pods. We just every time we play a series, something that we really like, we'll go and we'll record something. So back earlier in the year, we covered Hitman 1, 2, and 3. Specifically, like, let's just recap the plot here because it's really easy to skip that in the most recent Hitman games, but they're really good if you pay attention to them. So we covered that. And then just today, we launched our recap and breakdown of Resident Evil 8 and then also Resident Evil 7 earlier last month, where we just kind of talk about this time focus a little bit more on the gameplay and like talking about the balance that Capcom has found from Resident Evil 7 to Resident Evil 8, but also what they learned from 2 and 3, those remakes. So, yeah, it's really just kind of every couple months we'll break something down. I think we're going to try some E3-ish coverage, so that's cool. So, yeah, Zach R. Robertson on Twitter or at Matchpoint Pod. And thanks again, y'all, for having me. Really appreciate it. It's been fun.
Absolutely. And, yeah, your guys' Hitman stuff was just phenomenal. I spent way too much time at work listening to that. I love Hitman, and there's so few podcasts that would cover it. So it was really cool to sit down and have all that to just consume. So really great job. You and Matt do awesome work. So keep it up and look forward to more. Sam, where can people find you if they want to stalk you?
Yeah, despite my best efforts, you can still find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert. That's Tolbert. And clowns running the clown house and all that. Yeah, and you can find what I'm writing temporarily for E3 coverage is over at Tech Radar. And then after E3, I'm going to be back with my pals over at Windows Central and Android Central. So come check all that out.
Absolutely. And check out Sam and all the good people over there. They do amazing work. Eric, where can people find you?
Yeah, you too can find me on the Hell site, Twitter at EC Jackson with an X. And when I'm not there, you can find me on Brad Podcast Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock. And yeah, other than that, I'm around.
Absolutely. And I'm Nicholas Downey. You can find me on Twitter at Undead3XVI. I shit out hot takes like a fucking Chipotle restaurant, and it's terrible, and you probably won't want to follow me, so don't do that. I write articles. I do some freelance stuff. I've got some PC related stuff coming up. Got a review for some DLC coming up, and just generally having a good time. So follow me there. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Gaming Perspective. If you follow us on MP3 formats, we appreciate y'all listening to our 2-hour ramblings about video games and everything in between. And yeah, so appreciate, as always, it's looking like schedule-wise, we'll be scheduling our Resident Evil Village spoiler cast, hopefully for next week. And so that'll be exciting. And yeah, E3 coming. So we'll wait and see. And we'll obviously have a big dump after E3 to talk about everything. I think dump was probably the worst fucking word I could have used for that. Hey. But regardless, yeah, there'll be a lot to talk about post E3. So I look forward to talking with everybody, and hopefully everyone enjoys themselves. And we'll see you guys next week, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye-bye.